techniques, land the most desirable talent, launch your company towards massive success. This is the Higher Power Radio Show with your host, Rick Girard.
All right, so last year I worked with the CEO who was frustrated because his managers refused to follow a new hiring process. Now, he had announced the change, he gave everybody the tools, and he explained that the hiring needed to become more structured and evidence-based. Now, for a few weeks, everyone played along. Then something urgent happened, and the CEO stopped asking about it. And the managers quietly returned to hiring the way they always had. The CEO told me, my people are just resistant to change. And we dug deeper on this and we learned that they were not resisting change, that they were responding to the evidence. And now every previous initiative had eventually disappeared. His team had learned that they didn't have to accept the change of the new idea, they just needed to wait it out and it would just go away. That was the most dangerous pattern that this leadership team had developed. And we figured out how to create a way in which it didn't stifle their growth. So today we're going to talk about how a leader rebuilds belief inside an organization and gets everybody rowing in the same direction. I'm Rick Girard, and welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show. We help entrepreneurs and executives win the strongest people. We do so by sharing insights from top performing rebel entrepreneurs, game changers, and industry leaders like our guest, Mr. Jason Thiellen. He is the CEO of EA Consulting Group. Now, Jason has spent 20 years helping shape the firm's growth, culture, and reputation. He stands out as a non-engineer who rose to lead a 60-year-old civil engineering firm by mastering the full land development process and building trust across the organization. Since becoming CEO in 2017, Jason has focused on creating lasting change, developing stronger leaders, and giving employees a clearer path to grow, which is what makes Jason the perfect expert for today's topic. Jason, welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show today.
Rick, thank you. I really appreciate it. Honored to be on the program.
Yeah, happy to have you. All right, so we got a lot to cover. So let's start with your organizational change. So, you were kind of groomed to become CEO of this organization, and some people loved the idea, some people didn't. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, so I'd been at the firm, started the firm in 2006. I fell in love with real estate when I was 19 years old. And that's actually what led me to enter the engineering world, not really what I thought I would end up doing. Every company I'd been at was kind of trial by fire, and with the statement that we don't know what you do, but we think we need you. So within that, based on my personality, I had some ambitions, some things I wanted to accomplish. Would find out later that I love building and growing things and people. And when I came in 2006, I was a department of one. And over the years, found opportunities inside the marketplace. They originally hired me to actually help out with their office in Lincoln, Nebraska. That Lincoln, that market can be a little tough, but the real opportunity was in Omaha, in a place where I saw a need, and thanks to my predecessors, they allowed me to run. And so so in 2006 and by 2009 or 10, I'd taken over planning, took over landscape architecture, grew our planning group from a team of one to about 13 people, and became vertical inside the organization. And then over the years, just kept adding more clients, more business, pushing our leaders to maybe look at some things differently. And a really good partner, and our president is our current president today, that saw that and asked how he could help me do more. And it's kind of funny, you use the room grooming, but I found out through the grapevine that my predecessor was going to make me CEO, and had to have a conversation with him like, wow, I don't even know if I want to do that job. And he convinced me that I was the right person. And then I convinced him to give me 2 years to get ready. And that's a really hard thing for somebody with my ambition and my ego to say, stop, I need 2 years to figure this out. And a lot of that came from my previous experience of watching people get put in positions that they weren't ready for, or more importantly, the company and the team was not ready for. And so I wanted to make sure that didn't happen to me.
That's a really good point. I tell the story the worst day of my career was when I was a high performer and I got promoted to manager with no training.
Yeah, that's right.
It was the worst job ever.
So hard. So hard because you've got title's the lowest form of leadership. We know that, but if people don't even respect your title because they don't respect you or don't know you, the title means nothing.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't understand. So they got to get to know you, and you've got to get to know them and meet them where they're at.
Yeah. All right. So you take ownership. What was the biggest challenge that you ran into?
The biggest challenge, one was a personal challenge of just naivety of never running a company and thinking that I could take my program and my thoughts and my, what I did with a team of 10 or 13 people and just apply it. At that time, we were about 85 people, I think, thinking that everybody would just get in the boat and start rowing, man, without me having to explain it. And then once I got into the position, the people that I thought were my advocates became kind of some of my bigger critics, and my bigger critics initially became my bigger advocates once they saw the consistency. And that was probably a huge challenge. That was a huge challenge. One, you're blindsided by it because you thought you had this relationship, but what I realized is, oh no, I'm challenging them in a way that they hadn't been challenged before. And everybody loves the idea of new leadership. They love the idea of your ideas as long as it doesn't impact them, right? And that's what a lot of people don't accept. That, that's for everybody. We're going to do this for everybody. Oh, not me. I'm not the problem. Nah, you're part of my problem too. And so you got to find ways to work with those people, get them on board, get them to rethink, change their mindset a little bit, to be a part of the vision that you put forth that everybody said they wanted to do until they have to do the things, right? On the critics side, they became advocates. It was so surprising and refreshing because they were able to come to me once I proved to them that it was going to be a consistent message, stay focused over years. They're like, okay, I believe you. And how can I help you? And then they became huge advocates inside the organization, helping me hold people accountable every single level of the organization, which is critical to achieving some initiative that you want to have achieved throughout an organization.
Yeah, I feel like everybody likes the idea of change. They actually hate change, though, if it affects them or they have to change.
That's right.
But once they get into the habit of change, it becomes refreshing.
Well, right. Oftentimes as humans, we don't know what's best for it. I mean, we do know what's best for us. We just don't want to go through the hard work to do it. And it's not rocket science. It's just really good habits, mindset, and repeating those on a daily, consistent basis, right? Discipline and consistency will solve a lot of the problems you have as an organization. Those people have to buy into that daily discipline and consistency, however they want to do it. I don't tell people how to get there. I give them the why we need to get there, why I need you to behave this way, why I need the outcomes we need. And once you create those daily habits and that discipline and consistency, it takes that worry off of your plate, and you can now focus on the things that really drive your organization in the direction you want it to go.
So true. Are you listening to the Higher Power Radio Show? For our podcast listeners, we're going to take a quick educational moment from our sponsors. All right, I'm digging in deeper with Jason Thiellen. He's the CEO of EA Consulting Group. And we just talked a little bit about really change management, right? Like, you taking the helm of a business that you've been in for a long time. And, the challenges that you had ahead of you. So let's do this. Let's break it down for the audience.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 steps of what you did to tackle this issue. Because I think this is a really helpful business use case for anybody who is, even if you're starting your own company.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest difference has started a few other companies, myself, from the ground up. The biggest difference is, with this company being around for, at the time I took over, 50 years, there are deep-seated fundamental and foundational things, cultures, decisions, the things that we do every day that we may or may not consciously see, that you have to dig through and you have to deal with on a regular basis. And so the first thing I did is created a vision for the organization, and then created a what I want to say, it was almost like a script that I would talk every time about why we're doing it. Here's the vision. Why are we doing it? So I committed to a direction, and then I started creating the little things every day that we can do to create change. And I did it at every level of the organization, explaining to everybody. I do what is called a wheel talk initially. It's a big wheel with the goal in the middle, and all the parts and pieces of our organization, they're all the same size. And it's this whole talk about how we have to have a goal that holds us together. It's like a spoke, and all these spokes are the same size. And if one of those spokes doesn't work, the wheel falls apart, right? Or if 2 or 3 of them are gone, it kind of clumps along. And inside of that metaphor, creating the things that we needed to do in order to make sure everybody understood how important your role is to this organization. I would always tell a story about John F. Kennedy going to NASA and asking the janitor what he did there. And his response was, I'm sending men to the moon. It wasn't, I clean floors. He saw his job just as important to getting men to the moon as the guys doing the engineering. And it's a powerful metaphor for if you're really bought into a process and to a goal, you can achieve value and happiness at any level of an organization. And so operational discipline, we worked on billing and receivables, profitability, quality control, the leadership component.
That is such an important point. I'm glad you brought that up because, if everybody's on board with the same mission, which is what you're, just like
Basically.
the scenario, if everybody's on board and they believe that every single job has a purpose and it moves the mission ahead, it's so much more powerful.
Way
Too
more, yes.
often, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, but this is just an hourly role. So, we don't really need to put a lot of effort into it. Man, nothing makes me cringe more than that.
Well, what that moment happened for me when I was talking to our accounting department in that time frame. And it's like, what does it matter? We're just accountants. I'm like, whoa, time out. How important is accounting for a business and billings and receivables and our AR? And I mean, it's incredibly, you are the gatekeeper to our money,
Yeah.
which if we don't have, we can't operate. Right. And just changing that mindset because people, right. You've heard the mushroom analogy, right? They're kept in the dark and there's bats and, whatever happens there. So I'll keep it clean, but you can't do that to your people so that they feel that they're a mushroom and they're just left in the dark. And you have to shed that light for them. And like, no, you matter. And I need you to elevate up to meet all of us at this place. Like, no, here's what I need from you. Here are the frustrations I have. Here's the things I need out of people. Timesheets were a big issue. We were losing a ton of opportunity in the way we did timesheets. The time was lagging months behind. Well, we're done weekly and the timesheets and we made it a thing and people got on board and, and I'm an offender of the timesheet thing and right. And I'm always mad at myself, but we all have, but I focus like, okay, I get my time in by Tuesdays and now it's easier because I'm mostly overhead, but man, when you got 40 projects you're working on, I get it. You got to track all that time. You're living your life 15 minutes at a time, which is hard. So you just need to make sure everybody feels like they are mattering to the goal in a way that isn't just financial at the end of the year, right? Yeah. It's daily things that happen.
All right. So step one is you committed to a direction and you're setting the tone for that direction. And now it sounds like you're naturally also kind of going into building a communication rhythm at the same point.
Well, it's key, right? Yeah. So one of the bigger complaints that I heard when I was going through those 2 years of trying to get ready to become CEO was this lack of communication loop. The leadership would communicate something, then nothing would be followed up. There was no consistency. And so there's a few things that I did to foster this one single message and how every group fit together. We have 13 departments in our organization. So every message is the same main point, but then distilling it down to how does it matter in survey? How does it matter in engineering? How does it matter in planning and platting, accounting, admin, all that? So first I started doing what I called quarterly rah-rah sessions where I did I talk about what we're in the framework of what we're focusing on for that quarter. I did a personal thing. I've always felt like leading from a place of vulnerability that I have mistakes. I've made lots of mistakes. I'm not infallible. I am going to make mistakes. I need grace for that, which means it's okay for you too. But my thing I hold myself to is I learn and I grow from them and try not to repeat them. And then I did a business quote where we talked about how it matches up to our business vision and goals. Regular visits with department heads. We meet monthly with our department heads. The president and I do, to make sure we're keeping our thumb on that and that we're moving towards those. We do a quarterly conversation with the entire company where we go through the financials. We go through where we're at. And we've gotten a little more sophisticated in that, where we show some expenses and profitability. And so it gives people enough information to not have to dig deep into the details, go over initiatives that have changed. We created a committee called the My E&A Committee, which is our rank and file group. It has a leadership structure. Tom and I meet with them every month. Early on in that process, we made a lot of policy changes out of that group for our people. It gave our people a voice to be heard. Their goal is to go out, meet with everybody, talk about the initiatives, get feedback, bring it back to us, create policy out of that. They handle we have a whole bunch of things that we do all month long to get our people together. We have 2 offices, so we work really hard to make sure that they intermingle better. I tell a lot of personal stories of my losses and how I've had to deal with them, because we're doing life together, right? I preach a lot that you're with each other so much. If someone seems off, if I notice Rick is off, I need to ask, man, Rick's, what's going on? Is everything okay? You seem off today. And it shows I care about Rick, and something's off, what's going on? And gives you a chance to be like, yeah, man, I had a crappy morning. My kid threw up all over the place, and I got late to work, and I missed this and missed that, and I'm in a bad mood. Well, man, let's go grab lunch and let's get that off your mind or whatever.
So that's a great paying attention. So there's 2 things that were really interesting to me. One is, you started kind of a language, and the communication flow and protocol is very structured, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about language. Are you using the same language over and over?
Oh, the vernacular. Yes, the vernacular is huge. So we've got sayings. Engineering answers is our brand. So one thing that we started when somebody comes up with an answer, right? It's a great engineering answer. Go slow to go fast, 1% better. Stakes. We, at the end of the year, if we've had a great year, we bonus on with our bonuses, but we give everybody a gift certificate to go buy steaks. And so that became a mantra, like, let's get steaks. You've got it. You've got to create a vernacular that gets repeated. We work on trust and conflict. We have a 5 pillars of trust. It's actually called ACT now. Accountability, trust, and conflict, making it not a bad word, right? Conflict's not a bad word. And if you have trust, you have accountability, conflict becomes a discussion. It's not really conflict, right? All of that wrapped around all employee training and soft skill training and teaching. We have a really young organization now, and teaching them some of those soft skills so many technical people struggle with, because they're so focused on wanting to be technical and solve problems. And a lot of them self-select into those types of jobs because they don't want the people side as much, making it okay for them to find their strengths in that side of things and to leverage. We use predictive index. It gives people the ability to look each other's blind spots. A lot of times the conflict is out of miscommunication or quite not understanding. Rick might be somebody that needs a week to think about something, right? You might need something. If I want to talk to you about something and I know your personality is you need a week to think about it, I need to give you that week. Even though my personality isn't to give it to you, it's to show up and talk it out for you. But I know that annoys you. Well, then it's my job to meet you there, right? But on the flip side, if you want to talk something out quick, you can come to me and I'll be like, yeah, let's go. Let's cock this thing out. Just that awareness, the self-awareness component of each and every person, recognizing that we all are in this together and we're all a little bit different, and giving people space to explore that and make some mistakes and not have that overwhelming, like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. Am I going to get a demotion? It's like they keep me from getting a promotion. No, this is the place where you're going to learn and grow as a person. We want you to be professional, and being a professional is a act. It's not something you wake up one day and just do. You got to work at it.
I love some of the components that you put into this, because quite often, for example, you're using PI in a proper way, right? Predictive index is a great tool for communication to understand how to best, work together.
Yes.
I think DISC works well for that as well, right?
Any of them, right? Yeah. And if you use them, though.
That's what they should be. That's what they were designed to be used for, right?
But you can't quit.
Yes.
That's where initiatives fail, when you don't water that. I'll call our culture and what we're doing as a garden. It has to be watered every day, has to be weeded. We have to fight off the varmints, right? So you got to protect it.
Yep.
We have worked so hard to grow this thing. I need some protectors. I need some people to say, no, that is not how we behave here. And when you talk about behaviors over things or stuff or tasks, it's a way different conversation with people, right? Because so many times you take this feedback and you take it personally. And it's not that you're not a bad person or a bad employee. Your behavior is causing something over here that's causing a conflict of some sort. Let's look at why the behavior is happening. Oftentimes it is what we find is they don't know they're doing it. They're not aware of it. Rarely does a person know what they're doing and shows up to ruin your day, right?
Yeah.
But depending on how I'm showing up today, if my dog crapped on my carpet, which happened to me last week, and I missed 30 minutes of work, how you show up might affect me, even though it's not your fault. You have no idea that happened, right?
So true.
We have to calm ourselves and go, okay, Jason, calm down. You're not mad at people for this. You're upset about that. That's not fair to them. And that's a really hard thing for humans to do because we never want to be at fault, right?
So the idea of you thinking of the business as a garden is a great metaphor, especially when you've created this culture that so many companies do it poorly.
Yeah.
So I would imagine you probably have scenarios where somebody might leave and call you back a few weeks later and say, "Hey, look, I think I made a mistake. I want to come back."
Yeah. Yeah. We just had that happen about 6-7 months ago. We had a really good employee in our survey department, got an opportunity that he was looking for. And we are, our mantra on that is, hey, we want you to stay. And we've had to have this have had this a few times where I've had employees come to my office and say, I don't want to leave, but I've got this opportunity. And my response is always the same. Listen, I would love for you to stay, but I can't give you that opportunity, nor can I pay you that. You would be crazy to stay here as much as I want to keep you and be selfish. But that's not what we're about. I'm about people growing and going to places. And sometimes we don't have that opportunity for you. And it's okay. You leave and go to another organization, and where you came from makes us look good. That's how I look at it. So he got this opportunity, he hated the job, said, I would love to come back. We didn't have his original position open. What do you know? We found a place. Like, that's the other thing I love about this place. We are so nimble in a way that we can create opportunities for really good employees, because we know that I tell people, I onboard all our people, and I say the same thing to them. I'd rather have a really great person who's a good employee that I can grow to a great employee, instead of a really great employee who's a crappy person. So that person never works out. Brought him back. He's happy. And guess what? He's our biggest advocate, one of our biggest advocates in our firm, right? Telling our young people, I know you've never been anywhere else. I've been there. It's not great. This place is awesome. The things they do for you, all the little things, right? It's no different. You get used to stuff. You just think it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
And we forget to be grateful. We forget to have appreciation.
It doesn't, man.
We talk about.
I've seen the inside of lots of companies in my career as a headhunter, and I got to tell you, like, the easy things never happen at most companies, right? The
right.
things like just saying, "Hey, thank you. You did a great job on that." Something as small as
so
that
simple.
doesn't happen. And quite frankly, that's how I made my career as a headhunter, is like I would pull people out of companies where they just felt like they were either under challenged, underappreciated, or underutilized.
That's right.
And
that's right.
All I had to do was help to create a better scenario for them, and then they left.
One of the best things, I think, tools we added about 5 years ago was succession planning, and people development. Really strong on the people development side, but on succession side is identifying those high achievers, those people with potential, and then creating a program to give them a path forward. We're working on career paths now for our department, each one of our departments. Some are further along than others, but my biggest conversation with the young people I mentor is they go, how do I get here or there? And it's easy to say, well, you just got to work hard. But it's not true. It's not what they want.
No.
Like, what are the skills I need? What are the behaviors? Where are my blind spots? And so helping them see those things with a path to say, if you do X, Y, and Z, this is the path. And oh, by the way, if that doesn't work for you, you just take a right and you can be a technical leader over here. And that's another path. And you can be an assistant project manager. You can be a president, a CEO. These are all available to everybody. And we've proven that. You can be an owner in our organization. You don't have to be an engineer. It's a unique spot to be in for me, For when I came into this industry, I was told if I don't go back to school and get my engineering degree, I'll never own part of an organization. I sure as hell won't run one. Well, guess what? They're wrong. And most people are wrong. And I think because they right.
Most people are wrong.
They just are. Because the ego, and by the way, I have a huge ego. I'll be the first one to admit it. I've spent a lot of years tamping it down in a way that your ego doesn't blind you. And I'm sure I'm blind in places, obviously. I'm not perfect, but nor do I strive for that. We don't even strive for perfection at our organization. We strive for excellence. Excellence, because excellence is something you can wake up, you can suck today and be better tomorrow. And that's literally all it is. Go to bed. Before you go to bed, think about how your day is. That's what I do. What I do well, what I do poorly. Do I owe apologies to people? Do I have to make up for something? And then I'm going to do it better tomorrow. And then tomorrow I'm going to build on those successes, and I'm going to reevaluate again, and I'm going to get better the next day. And what do you know? If you do that over the course of a year, 5 years, 10 years, you can have a great career in whatever you're doing.
Such great. So you've kind of done a really good job of kind of building a belief system within the organization. How are you transferring that into shared ownership and accountability to where the organization has a system of checks and balances and people are taking lead on it?
So that's where the mentorship comes in. That is where the constant inspect what you expect. That is an area that I have to do much better at as a leader. Giving initiatives and then expecting it to be done, but never checking on it. And so that is one of the biggest ways. Too. Yeah. I mean, it's my personality, right? Go do blah, 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 blah. And I turn around, I go do something else. And that's never good. But to me, it's giving people ownership of their decision-making. The biggest thing I found. So for example, our department heads, I tell them all, I'm never going to come in and micromanage you. It's not who I am. You have problems, we're going to help solve it, but you own those problems. And if you're making decisions that are making those problems worse and unwilling to do something about it, that's a different conversation than I'm struggling doing X, Y, and Z. Well, then let's help you that. Then give that next level down some ownership. That's part of with our development plan with our people, particularly for our engineers. We have expectations for years 1 through 5. Like, here's what you're doing. It gives them a clear line of sight and the responsibilities that go with it and the ownership. Having the all-employee training on a regular basis. What does self-awareness look like? Growth mindset, ownership of those things. Constantly beating that drum every single day, the same message over and over again, that you have to come here. You have to manage up. It can't always be the supervisor's fault, right? And that has created this cadence inside our organization where we expect you to take ownership and be professional. And it has filtered down. Now it's taken a decade, right? And we're still probably have lots to work on still too.
Yeah. So this kind of makes me think that you've created this leadership infrastructure path.
Yes.
That essentially is giving people the ability to see where they can go.
That's right. So
what does that infrastructure look like?
So we've got all employee training for our rank and file. We started our Leaders Path program 3 years ago. We're on our 3rd cohort, which really drills down into the behaviors of a leader. I think most people, they think management is leadership. Management is task. Leadership is people. It's a different mindset. So we've had to do that. We have annual leadership refreshers with all the cohorts. So we get together as a group. Now you have a group you can lean on when you run into your problems. You're just not running to the president or CEO. I mentor about 35 to 40 people in our firm. And it's all about you as a person. How are you handling things? Where are your blind spots? Where have you struggled? Working through those problems, coaching you to what solutions are. What have you tried? What do you think you could have done differently? I think that helps open the mind to some different things. The career path conversations with our young people saying, hey, you've been identified as a future emerging leader in this organization, and here's the first step. And then we've got some outside partnerships inside of our firm where we put them through a 4-part project manager leadership session that's really good for them. Constant learning throughout at a very young age and inside early in their career, so they can start thinking about technical versus the soft, because you've got to have them both.
That's such a great path that you've created there. So, Jason, we're getting pretty close on time. What would be 3 or 4 key takeaways you can give the audience so they can plug into their business today?
I would say number one for me, the feedback I got was we have to create the initiative. Who are we going to be and what are we going to strive for? And you have to stick with it until it's stuck, until it's done. You have to, and this is hard, repeat yourself over and over and over again for years and years and years. And it can be exhausting, but you got to believe it more than anybody else. You've got to build this communication cadence. You've got to have an open door policy. You've got to take the feedback, no matter how harsh or how, maybe you don't want to hear it. You got to accept that. And you've got to create advocates inside your organization at every single level, rank and file through every department, so that they can preach that culture. The final thing I'll say as a leader is self-awareness on terms of how you affect people in the organization, meeting them where they're at, even though you think maybe you shouldn't have to, right? And 2, inspect what you expect. You talked about earlier. That is probably a key takeaway for me in the last couple of years. I've not done a good job of that, and I have made that a point of emphasis to do that. And my worst thing is have some patience, man. This stuff takes so much time. And if you're not a patient person, you can get bogged down with why aren't we seeing results?
So very true. Jason, thanks so much for your time investment today. I want to welcome you to the Higher Power Radio community. Now, what would be the best way in which members of our audience can find you, find your company, all that good stuff?
You can go to our website at eacg.com. E as in Ebert, A as in Al, C as in cat, G as in go.com. And my email is jthiellen, JTHIELLEN at eacg.com.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for tuning this week's episode of Higher Power Radio. A huge thanks to our team, Brian Colburn, Andrea Ballin, and Ayla Gerard. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share. After all, this show's for you, and we want to continue to bring you valuable content like today's show week after week. You can check us out further at Higher, H-I-R-E, Power, P-O-W-E-R, radio, R-A-D-I-O.com, or you can drop me an email at rick, R-I-C-K, at intertru, I-N-T-E-R-T-R-U.ai. I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power Radio. Catch our LinkedIn Live show every Tuesday at noon, or download the podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you joining us on Higher Power Radio with your guide to hiring success, Rick